Welcome to Jaguar Boot Camp. Overview of Jaguar version 4. The information in this presentation is the property of Innovative Timing Systems. All of this information is confidential and may not be disclosed to anyone outside of Innovative Timing Systems without written authorization from the President of Innovative Timing. This presentation is only provided to customers who are under a current support agreement that has not expired. Let's take a look at the Jaguar version 4 software. Here you see the main screen for the application. We're going to talk about the different features on this screen and how they might be used to time an event. First of all, we'll assume that you've already powered up your Jaguar timing cabinet, you have all of your antennas connected, and you've started the Jaguar software on your laptop or desktop computer. When Jaguar version 4 starts, this is the screen that you will see. Let's take a look at the individual components on the screen and what they do for us. First of all, in the upper left, you'll see some race information displays. What's happening here is we're scrolling the names of participants, and we'll also show you their division, age, city, and finish time if they're done with the race. So this first screen, or this first component, allows you to see live information coming in as people are completing the race. Just below, you have a few buttons that you can use to control that screen. For example, you can click pause, or you can clear that screen. Perhaps pre-race, you were doing some tests and you wanted to get that information off of the screen, so you can clear it. You can also click dbase, which will take you to the database screen, showing you who you have loaded in the system. That can be handy if you need to quickly look somebody up. Let's go back to the announcer screen though, and we'll click ANNC, and that takes us back. On the right side is a scroll bar, just like Windows always has, in case you want to scroll down or scroll back up and take a look at past information. Now just below that screen you'll see Fast Lookup. Fast Lookup allows us to quickly find somebody in the system should we need to figure out what their time is, perhaps what their age or division is. So Fast Lookup allows us to type in a bib number or a name and locate somebody within the system. Below that we have some statistical information that's being displayed telling us how the system is performing. We also have an indication of whether or not we're using filters. Filters are discussed in a later module, but what they do is allow us to prevent certain chips from being read at particular times. Over to the right, we have 4 race time displays. If you're doing a 5K, 10K, and perhaps even a half marathon, it'd be nice to be able to see how long each of those events has been going. So Jaguar gives you the option to have 4 race clocks running simultaneously, letting you know how long that event has been going. Those clocks are set when you do the set start times, which is an option we'll talk about in just a moment. Now below the statistics and settings screen, there is a black window which allows us to take a look at any kind of messages that Jaguar is generating. The software will automatically monitor how well you're using the system, and it will give you warnings should it see something that it thinks might cause a problem. So periodically you need to be looking into this black window to see if there are any messages that you need to take note of. If you want to, you can scroll up or down. There'll be a scroll bar here once the screen fills up, and you can go forwards or backwards and take a look at past messages. There's also a clear button in case you would want to remove all of the messages. Now you'll notice on the black screen it said it loaded database records. If you notice also there's a question mark button on that green screen. If we wanted to know which database was automatically loaded, we can click on the question mark and it will quickly show us our database that we're using for this event. It'll show us the backup file if we're backing up our data. There are none yet. It'll show us the division, age group, the output, and the log file. So by clicking on the question mark, we can get some additional information about what files are being used within Jaguar. We'll click that one more time and bring back that previous screen where we saw our race clocks. Below all of this, there's a command line interface. It's unlikely you'll ever use this unless you're on the phone with a Jaguar engineer or a technician who's walking you through troubleshooting. Now to the right, we have a bib history window, and in that window we'll see bib numbers scrolling as individuals are coming across the timing point. So let's say perhaps you're at the finish line and people are crossing. You'll see their bib numbers scrolling up the screen here, and you have, again, a scroll bar which allows you to go forwards and backwards. If you need to pause that display for a moment to deal with a situation, you can click pause, and then you can unclick that again to start the scrolling. You can also clear that screen, so if you don't need to see all those past bib numbers, that's fine as well. Now below that, you'll see the bib number entry box. This box is used to manually type in chips that might have been missed and not read. As an example, let's assume that we were at the finish line and somebody was coming across and perhaps the chip didn't read. I might type in 25, press the enter key, and that would be put into the system as a manual entry. We'll learn a lot more about that in another module, but for now, just remember that this box is used to do manual entries. Over to the right, we have a series of icons that are used to operate the system. You'll learn much more about these in other modules, but for now, let's take a look at just a couple. First of all, there's a Connect button. Connect is what actually allows this software running on the laptop or desktop to begin communicating with the reader box. You'll remember from past training that you've placed an Ethernet cable into the laptop, or perhaps you're using a USB cable. Well, the Connect button is what allows the software on the laptop to connect to the timing cabinet and to begin to operate. Other icons would include Disconnect, enabling the reader, which actually turns on the transmitters in the reader, disabling the reader, turning it back off again, collecting chip reads, which is what actually goes out to the reader to retrieve the chips that are waiting. The Jaguar reader has enough memory in it to actually store up to 1,000 chip reads. So when the reader is enabled, it's storing data, and the collect essentially goes out and just retrieves that data. Below that, we have set start times, which is where we would go if we wanted to set a gun start, or perhaps we were doing wave start times for our race. We would check that or click that box. Below that, we have our full screen announcer. On the Jaguar software, if you wanted to have a full screen display that was a little bit larger than the one you see here, you can check that or click that box and it will bring up a screen that will show you the scrolling results of everybody crossing that particular timing point. Below that, you'll see the snapshot video button. If you've purchased or ordered our add-on product for shooting video or photographs at the timing point, that button will be live and you'll be able to use the snapshot software. And finally, below that is our Enable Demo Mode. That particular button allows us to simulate a race. You're at home, perhaps you want to do some testing, and you're getting ready for a race on Saturday. Rather than having to actually put bibs on children, friends, and family members, you can simply turn on the Enable Demo Mode by checking that or clicking on that, and it'll say yes, and you'll say, okay, I'm ready to collect chip reads. So it's essentially a simulator that allows you to pretend like you're doing races. Now you may have noticed that when I clicked on Enable Demo Mode, the icons are changing color as I answer questions. So you'll notice it's now in red. All of these icons use colors to indicate how they may be used. So for example, green means that that option is available to you should you want to choose it. Red means you've already chosen that, and in this particular case, you can disable the demo mode, which is something you would absolutely want to do before you actually try to time a race. The blue means that we shouldn't select those options yet, and in fact what happens once you connect is you'll see other icons here turn green. Now below all of this, we have some additional setup information. Where are we using the system? Perhaps at a finish line. How much time are we allowing between splits? How often do we want to collect our chip reads? And some other variables that we can set here. We also have the radar image. As you're using the software to look for timing chips, you will see a radar sweep, and it will actually show you chips that are being brought into the system. Finally, the last thing we want to take a look at on this screen is our built-in help. Anytime you have a question or you're not familiar with what you're doing, you can click this Help button, and Help will automatically open up and be placed on the screen for you, and then you can scroll down and you can read more about how to deal with a particular situation. The help files in Jaguar can actually be edited by you or by someone at your company so that you can customize the help for your particular needs. Alright, so that's an overview of the main screen. Now, let's also take a look at the file and menu options up above. If we notice, we have File, Edit, Database, Race Info, Reports, Chip Management, Utilities, and Help. These are our options that are available to us in addition to the icons that we had on the main screen. So if we click on File as an example, you'll see that we can open an output file, import chip reads, very common functions when we're using the software. And you'll learn a lot more about this, as I said earlier, in later modules. The Edit menu allows us to edit our data, in other words, the information that's in the system. And there are a number of options there that make it easy to work with things like, for example, swapping data between two bibs. Perhaps a husband and wife showed up at packet pickup, they got their bibs, and they accidentally wore the wrong ones. Well, we could swap the data between the two bib numbers. So our Edit menu is what makes it very quick and easy to deal with those situations where we need to modify or change data in Jaguar. We also have a database menu. Jaguar has a very powerful database that you'll be learning about later. And in this particular menu, we can make changes to that database. We can load, save, merge. We can do all kinds of things that we would typically need to do with our various databases. So the database menu allows us to do those functions. Our race info menu allows us to do things like rapid registrations, age group settings, divisions, setting our filters. These are the functions that we would use, for example, if we wanted to interface with our announcer software or our kiosks. Our reports module is simply where we go to print all the different reports we need for our event. So we have things like overalls and age groups, division reports, cross-country reports. All the different reports you're going to need are going to be found under the reports menu. There's also a custom report generator built into Jaguar that lets you design your own reports should we not have one that you need. Our next main menu option is chip management. Here's where we go to program our timing chips. When you buy timing chips from us, they're not programmed. In other words, they don't have a chip number in them yet. So you're going to be programming the chips to have a number which probably matches the bib number in most cases for your races. There's also other test functions in here that can be used. One of the most handy ones, and you'll learn more about this again later on, is the antenna radar test. That's where we go if we want to make sure that our antennas are aimed properly and ready to be used on race day. Our next menu option are utilities. These are things that you would use not very often, but from time to time as you were trying to deal with particular problems or you were trying to solve some situation. For example, if we needed to reset the time on our readers, we could use the sync command. If we wanted to see race stats about how many people were in the event, we might check that box or we might click on that menu option. We can check the network status. We can run diagnostics. So utilities are tools that we don't use often, but we will use them if we're trying to discover a situation or a problem or if we're dealing with technical support. Finally is our help menu. Our help menu will tell us about what our system is in terms of the configuration and capacity, and there's some extra diagnostic information under system info that tells us more about how our system is set up. So that's a recap and summary of the Jaguar system. Let's do one last review. On the main screen, we have information about who's doing the race and who's finished. We can check the database button and we can go look at the database and we can see who's in that. We can flip back and we can look at the announcer screen. Again, these are people that have been read at that particular timing point. We can look people up in the system. We can look at statistics. If we check or click on the question mark button, we can see what files that we're using. Below that, we have helpful information about how the system is performing. And the Jaguar software will automatically display information in here to let you know if there's a problem. The command line should never be used unless a Jaguar engineer is working with you to solve a problem. The bib history box will show us all the chips that have been read at that particular timing point. We have icons that allow us to work with the software. And in fact, in most cases on race day, you'll simply stay on this screen and use the icons to time the race. And then when you're done using these buttons and timing the race, you'll go to the reports menu and you'll select the particular report that you need and provide to the race director. Well, that's a summary of the Jaguar timing system version 4. We'd like to thank you for watching this presentation, and we'll see you in the next module.